Hello and welcome back to the It's Karmic podcast with me, your host, Vika Bradford. Today, I have one of your favorite people back on the show, guys. I know these are some of the highest listened to episodes, so he's back for you all. Valter, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Vika. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I literally, I think it was last year when I did like a ranking of the highest viewed podcasts last year. And because we had the two, I think one of them maybe was the year before, and then one of them was last year. I don't know how it all worked out, but your two were like in the highest indulged podcasts. I think I got the most messages from yours. They're still talked about. People are still like, that podcast you did with the guy about tantra and sex and relationships. And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm so excited to go wherever the hell we go today, because clearly the listeners love what you have to bring to the table, which is very different than everything else.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I do. I love the platform to share with all these people, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think you had like a ton of people reach out after at least our first episode that were just in that relationship crisis mode.
Yeah, and again, it's so common because like I just see so many people who actually just really love each other, but just don't know how to love each other.
Yeah.
And and it was nice for a lot of them to reach out. And what people don't understand about that too is like they think they're reaching out, and I tell people it doesn't mean necessarily it's going to work out. That's the other thing they don't get. Like, I know they want that result, but doing a little bit of coaching, understanding how things work might actually lead you apart, which is scary for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is to learn what actually creates a good relationship and to create it with the right person for you, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And so anyone that's listening, if you haven't listened to at least the first episode with Valter, I'll post both of them in the show notes for you guys. But if you haven't listened to the first episode, it was all about, relationships and the axis of, the divine masculine and feminine, and really went into, how women want to grow, men want to stay comfortable, and like we have just different energies and the polarity of relationships. And it was really potent for me because when we had that talk, I was in, it was pre Josh and I separating and then coming back together. It activated a lot within me. I actually think we had that talk during a Venus retrograde as well. So it was a very potent time for me, and that it did lead to separation for Josh and I. Like for those of you listening, very vulnerable, but Josh and I worked with Valter. We did our sessions with Valter. And one of the things I love that you brought to the table was like our goals, right? And so Josh and I would write our goals down, and they were the exact same goals. And you'd be like, I don't know what the problem is, guys. Like you'd sit there and you'd be like, on paper, the two of you are perfect. You were like, I don't know what to do. It might just be over. And it was, and then it wasn't. But I loved going through that with you because we like sat there and we're like, so what's the fucking problem?
Which forces you to go down a deeper rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because like when we talk about goals, like most people talk about the superficial stuff. Like we want to buy a house here, we want to pay it off here, we want to have kids or no kids, we want to travel, which is nice. Obviously, that should be a part of it. But it's like, what kind of relationship do you desire? What's it look like? And define it. And as you go down that rabbit hole, you're like, okay, we're on the same page here. Then what's off? Then you go even further deeper into it, right? Where it's like the average person's like, and I'm not dissing other people who coach or do therapy, but a lot of it's like, oh, what do you think? And what do you think? And it's like this prolonged conversation that doesn't need to be had, to be honest. I think I get down to the nitty gritty. Let's figure this out, and then let's get it done.
Typical Scorpio.
Right? Yeah.
Let's get down to the roots. Let's get to the base of this.
100%.
It's just so powerful. And, I'm so grateful that Josh and I got to do that with you, even though we had that moment of separation. Like it had to happen, and you helped us find a lot of clarity. At least me, I was the one that left and chose to leave the relationship for the 6-month hiatus. But for me, it brought a lot of clarity to the fact that like I didn't know what wasn't working, but I knew something wasn't working until I let myself go through the process of like dying and decaying and doing very scorpionic things. And then I came back to myself realizing like I was the fucking problem. the whole time. He had his shit, he has his shit, he's human, but I was the problem in my reasons for leaving, and you were a big catalyst in seeing that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank
You know
you.
what? And I am so appreciative to hear stuff like that. And the fact that people allow me to help them in such vulnerable
Yeah.
spaces and sharing such like deep, intimate details. It's a blessing for me. And again, that's my purpose on this planet. So thank you and
Love
anybody
that.
else who I have helped, right? So
And those you will continue to help, and those
yes.
listening right now being like, help me. And we're recording this again in a Venus retrograde. I'm going to post this in a Venus retrograde again. So clearly there's a theme here of relationship work, self-work, love work, inner work. And that's what it all comes down to. So, okay. Your work, I love that it is so focused on the masculine, and like obviously your clients are of all, like, both feminine and masculine, but part of your, I think, what is your sacred work is healing the divine masculine, reactivating the divine masculine, like bringing it back in a healthy way. And so before we hopped on, everyone, we were just chatting about like, what the hell do we want to talk about? Because like, if you all know anything about me, I don't plan my podcast. We just go where we go. And you brought up talking about, the red pill masculine energy. So I want you to tangent, go where you go, and let's see where we end up today.
Yeah, so for me, it's like how I view this whole red pill movement. It's similar to feminism, right? Like how feminism started was actually good. It's like, yeah, of course, we want women to be educated and have their own choices and be able to do what they desire. I have no problem with any of that. That's great. But what it became is like, I hate men. I don't need anybody else, et cetera, et cetera. And the red pill has become the pendulum has swung the other way now, right? It's a hard extreme swing one way, now it's the other way. And now it's these men are like, yeah, F women and this and that, nah, bitches and hoes and all this crazy crap, okay? So it's like, and what it was started with was to re-empower men, okay? The problem with the thinking here is like, we're still creating a this versus this. And that's not how the universe is created. The law of gender, like masculine and feminine, you need both within you, and we need both on this planet. Okay, that's just how it works.
It's just balance, like
that's what it is. And the problem how we're thinking is just too extreme, one or the other, and it's creating divide. So now what started to be good is not so good. Where does it go wrong? Actually, let's talk about what's good. So what I love is a lot of things I even teach. It's like, okay, you need to have that self-confidence. You have to build yourself up, right? And in my program, I talk a lot about the physical. I break it up in physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So on the physical plane, we talk about like, obviously what are signs and symptoms of low testosterone. We talk about possible causes. Then we get into how to raise it, right? Like the working out, the macro ratios, the type of food you eat, the supplementation, sleep, the type of alcohols to drink or to avoid. Like I get into everything, like on a physical plane. Okay, great. And then it's like, when you hear these guys speak and they're like, yeah, like work out, make lots of money. I agree with all that stuff. Be the best version of you. But the problem is, it's like it gets to a point where they want you to be the best version of you, and but losing in touch with your emotions. Okay, losing the emotional capability to like understand something, deal with it, and then implement something. To them, it's just bury it, ground it, who cares, push through. And this is where it leads men to trouble because they make bad decisions or they get physically ill or eventually they explode. I see it over and over and over again. And especially the illness. This is why I think a lot of men die before women. They don't deal with it. They don't talk to anybody. What happens is it gets pent up where? Heart chakra. Yeah. And what happens? Most men die of heart attacks. Okay.
So true.
Right. So it's like, why? Because they have no one to talk to. Now, on the flip side of this, too, like I had this discussion with a woman, and I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I'll talk about it again, where a lot of women think they want their men to open up. Right. And they'll be like, oh, I want my men to open up about his emotions. And And the same person shared this video of this man just pouring his heart out to his woman. And it was beautiful. It was like, but I was trying to say, what I explained to her, I was like, if this woman is not on a higher vibration, like she has not done the work, her subconscious, the animal part of her is like, I can't trust this man. He's weak. And that'll put her in a fear state, and she'll start to look elsewhere for other alpha men because she will not think that man can lead. Now, women will argue with me like, no, I want my man to open up. And I'm like, that is not true. And what I think would be the appropriate way, how I coach my guys is like, okay, let's say you had a rough day. Cool. You kind of think about it, analyze it. And then when you come home to your girlfriend or wife and be like, yeah, honey, I had a rough day today. And she's like, oh, what's wrong? This, and that. You explain. But then you're like, you know what? This is what I learned. This is what I need to think about what I'm going to do next. And this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Now she replies. Okay, cool. What happened there? As the woman, you're seeing he's emotionally intelligent, but he's still in control, right?
Yeah.
And he trusts you because he's sharing his emotions, but he has ideas of where he wants to go. So he's still in his masculine, he's still leading, but he also respects your opinion. That's why he's asking you.
So he's problem solving, and yeah.
Which is very masculine, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So now what happens is, because men are very literal creatures, what you tell them, they'll do it exact. Okay. Oh, I really want you to open up your feelings to me. Like, I feel like you just hold everything in. So the guy hears, I'm like, cool. Now he shares every fucking thing he thinks. Oh, I'm sad today because this, and I'm sad because this. Now, what happens? He starts to communicate like another woman. Now he becomes your girlfriend, and now you're turned off. And you've become the emotional rock. You have to be in your masculine. And you don't want to be that because that's not your natural state.
Right.
Okay. So I see this over and over. And women will argue with me. And I'm sure whoever you're going to listen to this might even not like what I'm saying. And you're allowed to not like it, guys. Like, you're allowed to have your own opinion.
Absolutely.
Okay? But subconsciously, the animal part of you as a woman will think that exactly. Okay. So some of the red pill stuff, will go over some of that stuff. Where they go wrong, okay, is basically they're saying, again, push your emotions down, be the best man you could be, collect as many women as you can. They treat them as like an object. Okay, it's kind of like the new Ferrari you want to get. Cool, they're humans. They're missing the human connection part. And it's like, you want to have multiple partners, I'm okay with that. Just be honest. Okay, just be like, hey man, I'm the type of guy that needs 4 women. Okay, but build yourself up to be that man and be honest. There's no cheating, there's no behind the back stuff. And if women are like, you know what, I want to be with this guy no matter what, I honor that too. It doesn't make them bad or good or anything. It just is, but there's honesty. Now, a lot of the men that bring this up and start talking like this have no means and have not built themselves up to be this type of person. Like, I had one guy say, oh, like, I asked him, what kind of woman do you want? He's like, well, I don't want a gold digger. Again, you shouldn't focus on what you don't want. Number one. Number two, you're not even in the realm of worrying about gold diggers.
There's nothing to dig for.
There's nothing to dig for. So it's like, you even thinking about that makes no sense. What's happening? They're watching these videos, they hear all these things, and they hear the Andrew Tates and all these type of guys, which, again, some of the things they're saying are good, but it's been pushed so hard to, it's like, oh, us against women. And that's not good. Again, you're doing the opposite of what this was supposed to be. Build yourself up as a man so you can lead, right, the people around you, whether it's your fellow man, whether it's your partner, man or woman, doesn't even matter. If you're the masculine in the relationship, and lead, do what you're supposed to do. Lead, protect, provide. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. Does that hurt people's feelings? Maybe. It doesn't matter. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with feelings. That's just what it is. So where the red pill goes wrong is they're treating women like dirt, like, oh, F this, and you should go out and do whatever you want as long as you have the money. And again, you're making it focus on just the physical, right? Where it's important, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
Who do you become as the man? Are you wealthy in here? Are you wealthy in your heart? Right? Are you building yourself up?
Yeah.
Right? And like I've said, I think probably in the previous video, when we're talking about couple stuff, one of the major issues I see, like, because there's pillars, right? Like, the foundation of every good relationship to me is you're attracted to each other, you have a great connection because you can't fake that, and you fall in love. The problem is people think you can live from that, and you can't. Okay. The
It's always
first pillar,
growing.
yeah, right. And the first pillar is personal development. Okay.
Yeah.
The common issue I see in today's world, especially with so much information out there, is that either nobody's doing it, which is not good, or it's the woman. And if it's the woman, guess what happens? She outgrows the man.
Mm-hmm.
Women are natural hypergamous. They want men at their level or higher.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I see a lot of relationships struggle. So I tell the guys, if it's going to be one, at least it should be both of them or the man, because he needs to lead. But if the men don't want to grow, then they wonder why they're stuck alone,
Mm-hmm.
and women don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big issue. But then they hear this red pill stuff where it feeds their mind like, oh, they're the enemy and I'm the man, and I'm an, like, I remember someone shared a guy's Tinder profile. I was in tears laughing because he put down like, I'm an alpha male. So if you have to tell people you're an alpha male, you're
You're
not.
not.
Instantly you're not. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even need to read the rest of it, but I just wanted to. I was interested.
Yeah.
And like, I want a conservative woman who's this, that, and knows that I'm gonna lead. And like, it was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever read in my life. And if anything, I'm embarrassed for this guy. So it's like, okay, this guy is straight up hardcore red pilled, and it's not good. And if you listen to some of these guys, like what's the Fresh and Fit, they're and what they share, a lot of information is actually good. I get what they're saying, but if you listen to how they speak, it comes from such anger. So I almost feel like these guys got rejected probably when they were younger,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they have such anger to be like, I'm going to show you I'm the man.
Yeah.
And build themselves up, which that part's good, but they haven't healed within. So they're playing all this game. They understand what they have to do. They understand a woman's mind. They understand how to acquire women and wealth and all that stuff, but they haven't conquered themselves. That anger's still there, and you hear it in their voice. The way they describe everything. You got to be this, and you're this, and it's like this hurt little boy still who got rejected in school or high school, whatever. That's all I hear.
Yeah.
Right?
Literally. Yeah, it makes me think about like that you mentioned the feminism thing, like it's the overcompensation and attempt at protection. Now, I get why a lot of men want or feel like they need to maybe step in there because the world has begun to hate men. Like it's like if you're a white man, God help you at this point, right? You don't get a job, you don't get anything because you're a white man. So I understand the desire to step into your power, quote unquote.
Yep.
Power, because there is wounding, right? There's fear. And it's the same as like feminism started with, well, God damn it, we want to be equal, and turned into now we still don't feel equal and we hate anybody who's oppressing us, which is men. So that I feel like that ripple has taken hurt people and created maybe something toxic. Now there's so many movements of these like amazing men, that are creating these like brotherhood retreats and circles where they, wrestle and they scream and they like drum it out. And like, they're like I swear they're just going back to the Greek times of like, being masculine in a healthy way. And then there is the areas where it's going to, it's like hurt people are leading the movements, and it's always this way, right? Like if you think about who ends up being the gurus or the cult leaders, it's always very, very hurt, toxic people telling the world how it should be. And so it's interesting to see that like femininity fought so deeply for one thing, and it actually created a different monster in its own hatred.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, it's like, it's funny. Again, the intentions are good. I do see the intentions being good. It just goes off the rails at some point.
Always.
Yeah, and it's
right, with everything.
Yeah, and it's so weird that it happens like that, but I don't know why, but it just does. So it's like, and maybe you're right, because I think part of it is like it starts from a person who's hurt. Yeah. If that person hasn't fully healed, they will steer off the rails for sure. So I do see that for sure. So that's
and if they're sorry, I was just saying, if they're karmically designed to like be a leader, because I look up birth charts every day, people are designed to be leaders, but a hurt person can take that leadership role and do whatever the fuck they want with it, right? It can be, I was, destined to be a leader of empowerment, big Leo signature or something, like your Leo moon, my Leo energy. But that Leo energy could be taken in a hurt soul, in a person who doesn't want to grow and heal, and it could turn into like Hitler stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because there is the potential for both. Polarity exists, right? You can go down any path. And so the leaders that have the natural charisma and ability and desire to be in the limelight and share their message and all these things coming from a hurt place are going to share their hurt with the world.
Yeah, I can totally see that. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you have that natural ability given to you and you don't steer it the right way, or you don't even know you have the ability, you just lead and you just don't even know you're doing the wrong path. It's a scary thing, because if people are, there's a lot of people on this planet, 8 billion people. So 8 billion people are following the wrong person. It's not good.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it. We see it right now. We saw it over the last 3 years. A majority of people are not thinking for themselves, have calcified pineal glands, don't have the ability to see past what is really base consciousness, right? Is past the physical, past survival, past fear, past money, past anything like that. And so a leader comes along for these men who are hurt and goes, beat on your chest and hate women. And they go, oh, there's the answer to all my problems. Beat on my chest and hate women.
Yeah. And
same for women.
Yeah. And same the other way around. So especially in this digital age, you can have a lot of people, and I've seen it over and over as well. If you present well, even if the information's shit, okay, people will follow. So if this guy could have rented a Lamborghini, had nice shades, nice fresh cut and shave, and nice clothes, he looks the part, he might have good looking women around him, like he just plays the part. Young guy, not even just younger guys, every guy's gonna be like, man, I wish I could be that guy. It's just, it plays in the male fantasy. Okay.
Yeah, especially the one that's been so programmed since, like, I don't know, I'd say 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, you get that Lamborghini, the red Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the sunglasses, like the big shot job, and the tons of women. Yeah, right. That's been so, I mean, if you think about it, that's been, pounded into people's brains since at least the 50s.
For sure. So it's like, and it makes me laugh, because if you ever had the capability to experience some of these things, or you've met people who have, if you ever get to talk to them on a deeper level, which I'm lucky enough to, you see how empty a lot of it is.
Yeah.
So they think, okay, I got, like, and you think, man, millions of dollars. You think, man, this guy's a G, and he's one of the most unhappy people because he hasn't put the work in here and here, his mind and his heart. Right, and other things he cares about, and I love that they're driven. I don't want them to lose that, but it's like, put the drive in something different. Or like, how much more money can you make? Or it's like, like they're going after this lifestyle, and they go after it, and then they figure out, like, wow, like, do these people even like me? Like, sure, you have 20 women around you, but they actually like you, or do they like your money or your status?
Yeah. Literally what they're getting something from you, right? The relationships that are typically cultivated from this space are not of substance. They're not the relationships that heal you or soothe you. And I mean, I always am like, okay, well, that's your karmic contract, and that's the shit you're trying to sort out. But also the opportunity to grow. I mean, I know every single one of these men have the karmic contract to grow here on earth. They just choose to stay in the karmic wheel.
That's right. And like an example of a guy, great guy, it's like, again, I talk about goals a lot. I'm like, hey, what's your goal? And he's like, well, I want to make a lot of money and do this and support my family. I'm like, no, your goal is to be famous. Because he was so obsessed with, like, getting attention. And the problem is, where he's failing at this point is because he's so obsessed with what people think of him that he doesn't actually have the self-love for himself, because he's so needy of other people's attention. And because he's doing that, it's veering him off from what he told me he wanted to do. Right? He wants to, be focused and make money and support family and create a family and do all that stuff. But now he's getting caught up in the spotlight and attention, and it's getting him into things that will get him in trouble. We talk about that stuff in the Men of Vitality program, because it's kind of like, Yeah, I talk about physical stuff a lot, but the testosterone stuff, the reason I talk about that is because men are very stuck in the physical realm, right? But when I get them in, right, then we go a little deeper and they're like, shit, I gotta talk about this now. Like they have nowhere to go, so they have to do it, right? And they laugh about it and they're good sports about it. But the reality is when you have lower testosterone, you're easier to manipulate. And we saw what happened in the past couple, what, 2, 3.
Yeah, and testosterone. I mean, they're saying that testosterone could just be gone basically in the next like 20 years because of how low it's getting.
That's right. So you can see that. And it's
Mhm.
like, and why? I think part of it's a plan to like control
Yeah,
society, right? So
100%.
it's easier to control society with weak men.
Absolutely. They're the gate,
That's right.
right? They're the gate and everything behind them falls when they fall.
That's right. So men don't realize this, and the reason why is because especially in North America, we're very comfortable. You don't have to hunt for your food.
Mhm.
Most people don't have to farm even. Like so
Yeah.
it's like, and you don't have to fight and protect for the most part.
Yeah.
You don't care if you're in shape. You don't care if your mindset's strong. You don't care about anything as long as you show up to a job, get your wage, go home, watch your TV, drink your beer. It's that you're fine. And there's nothing wrong with it if that's what you like.
Mhm.
My issue is what happens is you stop growing.
Yeah.
And that's you don't even give your body a reason to make testosterone.
Literally. And this is why people are so depressed, men especially. Like, I mean, what do they say that more men commit suicide than women? I know that's a fact.
77%.
And okay. And like, you wonder why. It's because men are designed to do,
Yeah.
and none of them are doing anything but things that drain and destroy them, honestly, because there's no passion, there's no drive, there's no exertion, there's
Mhm.
nowhere to channel all of the natural essence that a man has and is supposed to use. And so they just become shells, and we see it everywhere. Think about this a lot when I see the amount of hair loss that's happening. I'm sorry, but like whoever's out there being like men losing their hair is normal, it's not normal. It's not fucking normal. And there's so many people out there being like, oh, it's completely normal, it's genetic. It's probably genetic because something went wrong in like an ancestor, right? Like there's an imbalance in the frequency imbalance of energy, toxin, whatever it is. It's
Mhm.
not normal. Men are not supposed to lose their hair. Why are so many men losing their hair? Like this is something I think about all the time.
Yeah. So a lot of that has to do with the DHT, which has to do with testosterone, but it's also the chemicals we're taking in.
Ah.
Because like I had a client, he's Hungarian background, and he's moved here at least 10 years or more. And out of his family, he's got two brothers and a father. There's two brothers back home, his dad, who's older, obviously, full head of hair, normal.
Mhm.
Here, he's lost all his hair. He's gained all this weight.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Something's not adding up here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you look at, I'm going to talk about the North American perspective because I don't live anywhere else, right? So it's kind of like the air we're breathing, right? The chemtrails, all that type of stuff, and
Oh,
more pollutants that are out there.
yeah.
Tap water, all this type of stuff.
Food, everything.
Estrogen in the water, chemicals.
Everything in the water.
Yeah, everything in the water. Okay, so put this all together, and it's like you're gonna have a sick person.
Wow.
Person's just dwindling down, right? And you just see it, and then people are so numb in their mind, but they're just as long as they're able to do the basics. I'm telling you, and we saw that in the past 3 years.
Mhm.
If you let this person just make a wage,
Yeah.
right, and you let them, make sure they have food on their table, roof over their head, and they're entertained. You just have to keep them entertained.
Yeah. What is the quote? Give them food and give them sport or something like that. It's from like ancient Rome.
Yes,
And then they won't revolt.
they won't revolt, and it's the truth. It's
Yes.
just now we're doing it not just in a stadium. It's like it's worldwide because it's
Global.
television
Yeah.
or social media,
Literally.
right? So it's like, okay, if these people can just scroll through their phones or watch a TV,
Yeah.
we'll do whatever we fucking want.
Yeah. And they don't even have to pump good content out anymore. They've stopped
No,
making good movies. They've stopped making like the only movies I can stand are from the 90s or the early 2000s. They've
yeah,
stopped making anything worth our attention. And majority of people are still plugged in. That's all they talk about. Have you noticed this as well? Whenever you talk to people who aren't in our world
Yeah.
and aren't, trying at least to wake up and do the best they can. All they want to talk about is the TV shows they watch. Oh, did you
Yes.
watch this new show? Oh, this new show. And I literally, my brain just like
Yeah.
flatlines.
Yeah. I say it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I don't really watch TV. And they're like, really? Because they'll talk about like a star, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
I,
Really? And I was like, they're like, well, what'd you do yesterday? I was like, well, I read a book. I went for a walk. I did
yeah,
a meditation. And they're like, really? Isn't that boring? I'm like, no, I love it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Learned so much, expanded so much, felt good afterwards, slept well
Exactly.
afterward.
Exactly. So it's like I feel like, I tell people, if you are living like the average person, you're not living.
Right.
You're not doing the right things. I'll tell you that right now, because you're most likely watching too much TV, too much screen time. You're eating shitty food. You don't exercise.
Yep.
You're talking mad shit about yourself and other people in your mind. You have negative thoughts. You
Yeah.
probably hate your life. Your
Yeah.
body's dwindling and getting sick. You're not taking care of your true home, which is your body,
Hmm.
and you have zero control of your mind.
Yeah.
Which is going to create chaos in your life.
Yeah.
And your
Wild.
relationships probably suck.
And like, okay, because you're European, were you born here
I was
or
born here, but I'm
you were
first
born here? Okay.
generation.
But like when you go over to Portugal and you go to Europe and stuff, like, okay, so something I notice when I walk around here is, Josh and I will walk around and we'll be like, everyone looks so fucking sick. Everyone looks so sick, whether
Mhm.
they're this, that, or the other thing, everyone looks sick in, the face, like it's sunken in, eyes sunken in, skin's, not lively, glowing. Like, I'm like, everyone looks so sick. And when you're in Europe, do you notice that? Like, do you walk around and think that, or does everyone kind of have like a vitality to them?
Yeah. When I'm in Europe, I find there's a couple things. One is they are more lively, but I find they're more chill.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
everything's more slow, and I what I love about them, they still live life. They actually want to do things.
Yeah. They
I
don't
love
want to work to live.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I love that they savor their food. I love that they savor the connection between their family or their significant other. Like, and I've said this probably before too. It's like I remember being in Barcelona and I'm walking downtown. I was on my own, and I see this guy holding his girlfriend's hand or wife or whatever she was. And again, one of the things I see here is I don't know if people are dating. I don't know if they're brother and sister. I don't know if they're cousins. Like I don't even know what's going on there because it's so blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here it's like this guy is like so proud. He's with this beautiful girl and he's kind of takes her to this little alleyway thing. He starts making out with her. Okay. It wasn't gross about it. It was just like he just wanted her so bad. I'm like, yeah, it's my fucking boy. Okay. That's what you fucking do. You show people that's my woman. Okay.
Mhm.
And then they walk out and he pulls her and like, let's go. And she
Yeah.
was just like, "Ee," like so happy
Yeah.
and felt so good. There's no question who that woman is to this man.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing. We're here. There's no zest for life. There's no passion for your food. There's no passion for your
Yeah.
significant other or your friends or your it's just like there's things to do. It's the next thing. I gotta eat. Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta do this meeting. Cool. Okay, we'll get my next thing. Let's go.
Mm,
It's too much. And then like we're malnourished
yeah.
physically.
Oh yeah.
We're even malnourished mentally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're like, I feel like it's just we are shoveled the exact same thing mentally as we are physically, like junk food, junk media. And as you were saying that, I was like thinking about like you were talking about almost like a vibrance in European cultures. And I would say a lot of other cultures in the world, there's a vibrance. And North America, I was just thinking about how like the trend in color for cars right now, have you noticed is and I like the colors going on, but they're very muted pastels. So like beiges and like gray blues that are very like muted. They're not shiny anymore, they're not bright, they're not flashy. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about like Europe as these like flashy cars, flashy colors, flashy, bright, vibrant food is flashy, food is colorful. And then everything here is kind of like that monotone. Even if you think about everyone's houses now, they've all got the gray vinyl and the this and everything's muted, monotone. The vehicles now are muted, monotone. Our food is only, everyone's just meal prepping and everything is like organized so that you can get through it fast. You know, you don't have to take the time to cook a meal. And I'm just thinking about the energy of the two spaces. And one is like oatmeal, like plain oatmeal.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have brown sugar on it. It's just like crap. And it's just oatmeal. Nobody wants that. That was what they fed the prisoners. And then I'm thinking about Europe as like a jambalaya or something like that, where it's just like, or like, what is it called in Spanish? Paella. Like it's like a big colorful paella over there. And it's meant to be enjoyed together. And that oatmeal, like you sit in your prison cell and you eat it alone, like a beige blob.
I totally agree with that. And like, even think of the architecture.
Yeah.
You go to Europe and you see these beautiful castles and cathedrals and
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like beautiful. And then it's like you come here, especially more modern stuff. Like if you go downtown Hamilton, it's like they have some beautiful buildings.
Some are, oh my God, the old
Like
buildings.
the old buildings, like the stone, it's gorgeous. Okay.
They give me chills.
Yeah, stunning. But it's like there's just not enough of that. Now it's like everything new is like blah. It's like
The
dun,
box.
dun, dun, dun. It's like
How quick can we put this up?
Yeah, right. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? When you take away the beauty of architecture, you make the mental part of humans just blah too.
So true. It's so
Right. So if you're in
true.
Italy, you see this gorgeous basilica and all this stuff, and it's like, wow, it actually inspires you. Like, especially men and women, but like men get inspired by beauty, whether it's architecture, whether it's fashion, whether it's beauty of a woman.
Yeah.
That ignites us as a man. Right? Because if it was just all men, it would be, if it was everything was masculine, it'd be all square too.
So true.
Like that's how we're built. We're squares, and we're just like, you know, where like if you see the architecture in Europe, so beautiful and nice, like that's inspiring for all of us.
Yeah.
But from a man's perspective, it's like the beauty of a woman, the beauty of architecture, beauty of a car, like a nice Ferrari, whatever. You can inspire and see that, wow, that inspires me, which is beautiful, and that ignites the man, right? So, and for women too, it's like you see other women that are beautiful, you're inspired by other women, or like how nice their clothes are, or how like the architecture and or nature itself, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? A lot of it's inspiring, but like when we're creating, we're not even creating anything, it's just blah.
Just blah.
And it's not.
No, and I think like I hope people will start to change that. Oh my goodness. So okay. We veered off, but I love where we went.
It's okay. It's all good.
So I love it. So you were also talking about like narcissism, which I think is a really good term when we're just thinking about the like not even the divine masculine, when we're thinking about the imbalanced masculine. Now, and I'm not saying that just men are narcissistic, because my goodness, that is not the route. But let's talk to like the conversation of like narcissism and where you wanted to go with that.
Yeah, so like I feel like that's a word you hear very commonly now.
It's becoming so common.
Yeah, it's just like jargon that gets thrown out there. So technically, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't like tell someone they're a narcissist, right? But I think for the most part, you can tell behaviors that match narcissists, right? So I look at it like this. If you look, majority of people are becoming more narcissistic as time goes on. Why do I think that? I think that because if you look at how people are raised in more modern time, they're raised in a way where it's like, okay, helicopter parents, watching every little thing they do, okay? And if the teacher tries to discipline them, the parents all over them, or the people above that teacher will shit down on them too. Okay, so that kid thinks, well, I can get away with anything. I can do anything. Okay?
I must be super special
That's right.
If there's no consequences.
Very good. No consequence, no repercussion. Cool. Then you get to make the team even though you suck. You win an award or a trophy even though you didn't win. You pass the grade even though you don't deserve to pass. You didn't do the work. Okay. This would be the number one thing I see. Number two is technology. So technology, we're in a state where it's like back in the day. So I'm 43. So when I went to school, we didn't have computers and any of that stuff. It was like you're going to a library and you had to do a book assignment. You had to get like encyclopedias and books and newspapers. You actually do the work to research. Okay. Where now it's like literally you can get artificial intelligence, make you an essay about World War II from the perspective of Hitler, and you're done.
Yeah.
It takes you 30 seconds. Okay.
Literally.
Right. So now when you live in that world and that's all you've known, So probably kids from 2000 and on who lived in this world of technology don't know anything else besides that. So guess what? They're used to that. So now we're in a generation where it's like, I want information, it's at my fingertips. I want food or my groceries, it's sent to me. I want to date somebody, I'll swipe right, boom, get that person there at my house. Like this is the world that we're in now, okay? So when you're in that world, guess what? It's very hard for you to understand no and don't, right? And then the other one I would say is actually how people teach manifestation and mindfulness. Okay. So a lot of these mindfulness gurus will tell you you could have anything you want and you could be anything you want and you should have what you want. Okay. The problem with that type of thinking is, yes, you should work on you and you got to work on your internal world and you should connect to what you desire. Okay. But you need to evaluate what you desire and why you want it.
Right.
Right. So when you desire something, my thing is this. These are some questions I ask. Do you know what you want? Majority of people don't know. Is it what you want or is it what you're told you want? Okay. Is it what you want or is it all you think you can get? Some people play small.
Yeah.
Do you believe you can get it? Do you believe you deserve it? Why do you want it? Because your why's got to be strong enough to do it. Who's the person you need to become to get it? Okay. Are you willing to become that person?
Yeah, these are things I think about constantly. And I have this archetype of me that I'm always trying, not even trying, I'm always stepping further into, because that I saw on TikTok a while ago. This girl was like, create a, what did she call it? Basically like a persona of yourself, alternate ego of yourself, alter ego, that's the word. And, decide what she wears, how she shows up, how she feels, what does she want, what job is she doing? You create this alter ego. And then she was like, and then, step further into her every single day. So every choice you make, you're like, would she do this? And if she wouldn't, you don't do it. And that's 98% of the people, not even, I'm not going to say 98% of the people listening to this, but maybe even that will not do that.
Agreed. Because
they won't make that choice.
Yeah. So first of all, they don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
So because they don't even know what that is. They can't,
which is okay, as long as
you're not a bad person.
Yeah, if you are that person listening, it's okay if you don't know it yet. Time to get to work, time to connect in. And then outside of the people listening, 99% of those people will never even question it.
Oh, this conversation wouldn't even cross their mind.
No.
The other question you got to ask too is it for the greater good?
That's a big one.
Okay, so let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So let's say, I'll give you a couple examples. Let's say a client desires to make more money. Okay. Guess what? It's for the greater good. Why? Because they're going to probably do something they're passionate about. Yeah. So it fulfills their purpose. They're going to help people with a service or product.
Yeah.
Okay? And then it's going to allow their consciousness to expand and grow.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking on a deeper level, not on a superficial level. They'll make more money. If they make more money, guess what? They're going to come and maybe get a reading from you and maybe get some coaching from me and then go get their hair done with McGenna and over here. You know what I mean? They're going to go to the restaurant, tip that waiter or waitress. The wealth will spread. It's for the greater good.
Oh yeah.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Every time I level up, I get to level up other people. And that's the magic.
That's right. So that when you think about your goal, that means, okay, you're helping others too. So it is for the greater good. Now, let's say this person desires to make more money, but they want to do, say, drug dealing or trafficking people. Okay. Because this happens. Cool. Is that a good idea? No. Is that for the greater good? No. So then it's not good. Don't do it. Okay. Another example, client desires a partner. And I say to people, if you're single, you desire a partner, define the type of man or woman you want, define the type of relationship you desire, etc. Don't make it specific.
No.
Right? Unless you're in a relationship already and you want to make it specific, that's fine with me. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But don't make it specific when you're a single person because you can't make somebody love you.
Right. No.
Right? You just can't, and you don't want to. You want it to be natural.
No, it should be like this. It should just happen. I say this, a lot of my clients will ask, how when we're like looking at their charts, I'll be like, can you tell me anything about relationships? Or is there someone coming in, or blah, blah, blah? Do you see anything about like that partner for me? And I'm always just like, I could tell you that maybe. I'll tell you who would fulfill you based on what I see in the chart. And from there, I always tell them about how I manifested Josh. And I had just started reading The Law of Attraction by like the Abraham Hicks books. It was their series. It was about, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 chapters in. And I started seeing the shadowy figure that it was just a shadow, and I would put my words to it. So I tell all my clients this, I'm like, picture this shadow. It can be male, it can be female, it doesn't even have to have a gender if you don't want it to, it's just a blob. And you put the energy to it. For me, it was like, I wanted someone I could build my life with. I wanted mutual respect. I wanted communication. I wanted passion. I wanted my best friend, right? I wanted someone that was going to build this beautiful life with, that was going to be solid and strong. And I shit you not, 2 weeks later, he walked into my life. And on our first date, I looked at him and I was like, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah. Good for
And
you.
he was this blob, right? He was just this shadowy figure that I was like, I can't put a name. Like I was reading this being like, it can't be anything but this shadow.
Yeah. Right. And it's so funny because when you dive deeper into it, you could feel it.
Yeah.
Like, you just know, it's a knowing, right?
Yeah.
One of the other stories I want to go further. So if you can't pick the right person or a specific person, the specific client was like, yeah, okay, well, I want this guy no matter what. Here's the problem. He was with somebody with a family. So do you want to break a family up?
Right.
Is that for the greater good? These
No.
questions you have to ask. Right. But these people are like, no, you should go for whatever you want. It's if that's what's meant for you,
right.
Which creates narcissistic type behavior. Does that make sense? So it's like, people need to be aware of these 3 things because it is affecting everyone to a degree.
Absolutely. And if it was meant for you, like, anyone listening that has those moments where, you might be interested or loving someone that isn't showing up for you, and it maybe isn't everything you've wanted. You want them, but their actions suck. Like, if it was meant for you, it would just be, and it would be easy. Now it will have trials and tribulations like everything, but it wouldn't be like that.
Yeah. And I think let's define that too, because I think people get confused with that. It's like easy as in like, it should flow when you're with that person.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be resistance, or you shouldn't have to try to make it work. Now, once you're together, even as an individual human, you're going to have trials. It's part of the human experience. So as a couple, you're going to have that too. But that's why it's so important to be working on yourselves, right? Personal development, create your goals, get your love languages fulfilled, and make sure you're masculine and you're feminine to the best of your ability in your relationship.
Yeah, literally. And if that person's willing to grow with you, it's like Josh and I, everything's going to be okay. It's going to have moments where you think it's over, and you think it's like, you're going to have like hard moments, but the knowing, the love, and the just genuine connection and purity of that relationship will help you know that, like, it's all going to be okay. No matter how intense it gets, how dark it gets, it's all going to be okay. It's like a feeling. It doesn't create an internal chaos.
Absolutely. It's and I'm sure people who might be listening just have experienced this already.
Yeah. And I hadn't before him either. So I remember like not knowing what that felt like and getting into it and being like, I remember I used to think love had to be toxic. Like that's a belief I had, a core belief that love, if it was love, it was painful.
That's right. And it's funny because a lot of it has to do with, again, if you dive into childhood stuff, right?
Fairy tales.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just like, you think love might be a certain thing and it's not. And again, you attract what you are too, right? So this is where a lot of people struggle. So they'll tell me, oh, I want a great guy or great girl, but then they attract the person who brings out what they actually believe in themselves. So if they have a poor belief system, like a poor self-image, or they think relationships are toxic or whatever, that guy will or girl will confirm that for them.
Absolutely.
Until they do the work. And if they do the work, then they'll step closer and closer to the right partner who will bring out what they're actually feeling inside. Right? Because that's a big mistake. Because a lot of people, again, I see this as well. It's like, so many people are focused on the physical part.
Yeah.
right?
They
But
just
like,
want to get in. Like before doing the work, they're like, I just want the person. I just want them
right.
now. And I always think about the amount of work I had to do before Josh came. And he says the same thing. Basically, he was single for like years before me because he was like, I was just getting to know myself. And I'm like, thank you for doing that work, because me too. And that was the reason I think we could come together, is we did our work before we found each other,
Mhm.
and with each other heavily. But like, I think people are always like, I just want them now. And I'm like, well, do your shit while they're not here.
Yeah.
Do the growth that you need to do so they can come in.
Yeah. So when I hear that too, I hear that a lot too. It's like, okay, so like, I just wish I had someone now and I feel so alone. I'm like, cool. And I understand that it's natural human instinct that you want
Absolutely.
another and share your life. So I think that's beautiful. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. My issue is that you don't like yourself.
Yeah. You're
If you
just
actually
trying to
don't,
fill a hole.
yeah. So if you actually take this time, because that's what the universe is trying to do for you, is make you fall in love with you and fall in
Yeah.
love with your life.
What a
If you can
concept.
do that, guess what's going to happen? Men or women are going to gravitate to you.
Literally, you'll be beating them off with a stick,
Yeah.
because when that changes, that love of self and your life and your passion for your experience here on earth, then that changes, you become magnetic.
Mhm.
Like someone that, may be perceived as like drabby or slobby or like anything like 5 years ago could completely change their energy. And people would be like, wow, like this person is like the sexiest person I've ever met in my life, because they shifted their energy. Didn't even have to be anything in the world. This could be like the ugliest person in the world. And I say that with love, like, you know what I mean? It could
I
be, it
know.
could be Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Okay. And if he shifted his energy, it could be the sexiest thing in the world, because energy leads.
absolutely. And I agree with that. It's like, and again, leads back to what I'm saying too. It's like, so you get these people who are coaching, dating coaches and stuff, and they'll tell these guys or girls, like, okay, do this, fix your hair like this, dress like this, get in great shape, and and they'll do it, right? And which is great. They look good on the outside, but they haven't done the work on the inside.
Yeah.
They haven't done the work on the inside. So like their self-love is poor. Their belief system around themselves and relationships are poor. Their belief system around relationships are poor. Their belief systems in whatever they desire in a partner is poor. Because how many people do you hear like, oh man, so many girls are terrible.
Oh my God, it's constant. Like I know so
Guys are
many
terrible.
people. Oh, the girls are the worst. Like all these girls on Tinder are the worst. I'm like, hey, why are you on Tinder? Because that's not where you're gonna find wifey. I'm sorry, she's not there.
No.
And yeah, it's just the constant rhetoric of like, oh, guys are the worst. Guys are the worst. Women are terrible. Women are all this. Women are all that. And I'm like, then you're all that.
Very good.
Like, I'm sorry, but then you're all that.
Because again, they don't understand the concept of the outside world's a reflection of you.
Yeah,
So it's like,
literally.
okay, so that's all you see, and that's what's coming into your reality. So that
Yeah.
must mean a couple things. One, you believe that about you, and two, that's your belief in women or men or
Mhm.
relationships.
And you will only see what you believe. So it's like one of my, I think Josh sent it to me today. It was like a little Instagram video about a guy explaining to this billionaire had these amazing kids. And the guy was like, why are your kids so amazing? And he said, well, every single night, while they were growing up, I'd ask them 4 questions. And basically, I don't know the questions verbatim, but like, it was like, what did you do that was kind today was one of them. And then one of them was like, what did you see in the world that was kind today? And there was a couple other ones. And what he said was it trained them to see kindness in the world and to be kindness in the world. And so because of that, they grew up, seeing and being that light. And it's the same thing for your own energy. If you are seeing only shitty women and shitty men, well, then it's not to say you're a shitty woman or shitty man, but it's to say that perception is what you are programmed to see. And so you have to rewire that programming to see. It's like when we use gratitude, right? It helps you rewire to see that things are beautiful and you're not so focused on the negative polarity of life. It helps you fall in love with life again.
Yeah.
So the
And,
minute you
and
do that, yeah.
so it's like people, again, people get offended by certain things. Like you're saying, oh, I'm a shitty person. And we're not saying that at all. Okay.
No.
So what we're saying is, there are certain things you need to work on with you, whether it's your view of yourself
Yeah.
or your internal view of men or women or relationships. Okay. It could
Or
be
anything else, right? Anything you're seeing that is of the negative, something needs to be
yes, yeah.
reversed.
This goes into any other.
Yeah. For me, it's like politics and Canada right now. Really
Yeah.
hard to rewire myself on that one. But,
Yeah.
I have to understand that my perception of how intense it was, in the past, it's really calmed down, but over the past, 2 years was a perception of my own expectancy of chaos and of badness, and I had to work through that. And now I'm seeing less of it.
Yeah. And exactly. But again, we become aware. So I got caught up in that too, right? It's very
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's hard not to, right? And it's just like, okay, but we're take people like, okay, why am I thinking like this? Why am I thinking this? Let's shift the perception of it.
Mhm.
Because your programming is what's creating a lens that you view life through.
Mhm.
So if you think money's hard to get and it's the root of all evil, it's not going to come to you. If
No.
you think men are terrible or women are terrible and relationships don't work, guess what? You're not going to have very good luck with men or women or relationships. That's just the way it works.
It's just, let's literally, that is the law of attraction. It's the
Yeah.
law of vibration. You're vibrating at the frequency of this. Well, you're going to get this. So by definition, I'm not saying it's easy for anyone listening. You must raise your frequency, at least a tick, right? And that tick will help you see a different reality. And then the next tick will help you see a different reality. And then you might fall down and then you might raise yourself up again, right? But shifting your perception or consciousness or whatever you want to call it is shifting the vibration, and has to by law shift what you see in the world, because you've shifted your vibration.
Agreed. And it's like, this is so important for people to understand. And it's a way to take control of your life, right? And this is where people get scared too, because a lot of people like to not take control because they don't take ownership of their stuff, right? It's the government's fault. It's, oh, it's not meant for me. God didn't want me to have this. I'm like, that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you say that? It's like, no, he's given you the capability to create whatever you want, which is your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And the universe responds to us. So why wouldn't he give it to you? No, you're just not willing to do the work. Unfortunately, that's just the reality.
And that's like a heavy Saturn lesson of like, Saturn kicks our asses in these moments, even like a Plutonian lesson of like, you're your own problem. And how many times I've had to come to terms with that in my life, and let alone in the last 6 months of me sobbing, in bed, being like, I'm the fucking problem. I'm my problem. Nobody, it's not Justin Trudeau. It's not Canada. It's not inflation. It's like, those things are heavy. Yeah. But I'm my fucking problem. My bad habits are my problem. It's nobody else.
Yeah. And I think if people took it from that perspective and be like, okay, I have the capability to create whatever I want. I'm responsible for everything. And we're all co-creating together, but I have to do my part to co-create something good. So if you do that and you take responsibility and you work on the most important relationship, which is the one with yourself and God, if you do that, okay, I'm telling you, every other thing will benefit.
Yeah.
Your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your physical health, and your relationships with significant others, your family, your friends, money, all those things will improve.
Yeah. It's just like taking true ownership radically changes everything in your life.
It's the game changer.
It's a game changer. Oh my God, this is so good. Okay. We have had a jam-packed full conversation here. So in this, what would you leave everyone with today to really ruminate with? A question, a prompt, maybe something they can journal on, one thing that they can truly sit down and be like, this.
Yeah, I think just what we just left off on is like, really take some time to evaluate your life and take responsibility for it. Okay. Don't put yourself down if you're not where you want to be or whatever. It's not about that. It's like, just evaluate. Be like, how am I with myself? How am I in my physical body? How am I in my relationships with my parents or my friends or my whatever significant other or my kids or whatever who you have around? How am I with money? How am I in my career? How am I, whatever? How is my lifestyle? Do I like this? And then evaluate. And if it's good, keep it going. Applaud yourself, like congratulate yourself, celebrate that. see the good, see the gratitude and all that. And if it's not, be grateful for it, because now it's more clear what you do want.
Yeah.
And if you sit with that and take responsibility for it, not to put yourself down, but take responsibility, like, hey, now what is it that I have to do? And at least go down that rabbit hole and go from there. And this could be the start of the day where you're like, hey, my whole life will change just from here on.
Literally, that made me think of when I worked at Lululemon years ago. One of my managers, she was a really brilliant natural coach. And she made me question, she called them buckets. And she would always be like, hey, I want you to check your buckets. Like, which buckets are full, which buckets are empty, which buckets are overfilling, like check in with all those things you just mentioned. Like each thing is a bucket, like, kids, relationships, health, each is a bucket. And you look at your buckets and like, what one needs help, right? If your health bucket is empty, well, you're really going to have to fill that up right now. If your exercise bucket is empty, like, oh, I think you're going to have to tap into that. Or you might look at your relationship bucket and be like, that one's good. Like, I'm feeling really good about that one. So I love that idea of just checking in with all these areas of your life, and maybe just pick one where you're like, okay, I'm going to start here. And remembering it was always about, like you said, that relationship to self and how it will ripple through. So when you're looking at the relationship, Allie, it's like, well, that relationship, you have to work on you to do those relationships. Is not necessarily about those other people.
100%, because it always starts with you, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if we do, and I agree with you, I like that. Maybe focus on one at a time, because I know people might get really overwhelmed when you might have, if you're listening to this or watching this, right? Is you're like, holy shit, this guy just said 6 different things, and I got to shut this off because now I'm having a panic attack. Like, so let's just pick one.
Yeah, pick one area.
Each day, just pick one and just evaluate. Have fun, and this can be really fun.
It can be. Like right now I'm in my money bucket and I'm so deeply healing it. And it was really scary at first, really intense. There's a lot of tears. There's still a lot of tears. But the liberation that's coming from me working through this right now is the coolest thing in the world. And I would say that's the one I'm working on, right? Like there's other things, but this is the one I know is the root of so much disharmony in my life.
I totally agree. And I've talked about it before. It's like my relationship with money used to be poor. And I've done a lot of work on it. Why? Where did it come from? Well, poverty, at least 2 generations back, lived in poverty. It's my parents' mindset, even though they did a good job, but still. And then I'm raised Catholic, so they were like, oh, well, you remember your subconscious mind is wide open from birth to 7 years old. So it's kind of like, okay, they're teaching me your number one job on this planet is to be a good person, go to heaven. Cool, got that down pat. Then it's kind of like, it's easier to find a needle in a haystack than a rich man go to heaven. Well, okay, now you're telling me my number one job is to go to heaven, to be a good person so I can go, but it's harder to get there if you have money, essentially. So now my programming is money's bad. But I've had to beat that program down like a UFC fight for years. And it's like, and I'm pretty good now, but it's like
still there, right? It'll still
there.
always.
So you have to. That's right. So you have to consciously be aware of it. Right. And if you're not, it will creep up, and the old stuff will come up again.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. I saw a little chat with, I think it was that guy, Lewis Howes or whatever his name is. No, Gary V. I don't know. I think it was Gary V, that guy. And he was talking to one of his clients who's multimillionaire. And the guy broke down about being like, I make millions and millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, I go home and I'm that poor kid that didn't have money growing up. I'm still him. And, that I think it was Gary Vee was like, that guy's always going to live there. He's always going to be like an echo of you. And it's how you, choose to continuously rise above it, or for you, like UFC, fight that motherfucker down and say like, you're not winning this battle. That's really liberating.
So like, again, this is why this conversation is so important for whoever's listening or watching this, to be like, okay, what do I have to evaluate now, and dive into it and make it fun, guys. If you're doing it with a partner or your friends, make it a friends thing. Make it like, let's talk about it. People you trust, obviously, and make it a fun endeavor. Don't make this work. Yeah,
I agree. Okay. So leaving off, where can everyone find you? How can they connect and work with you?
Okay, so you can reach me on Instagram, Mr. Valter Feleja, or even Facebook, Valter Feleja. or you can even email me at valterfeleja@gmail.com.
And I will pop that in the show notes for everybody, so you guys can spell his last name properly and find him, follow him. Valter's amazing. Every time we do one of these, like I said, these episodes are so well received, and I get countless messages off of our podcast. So I'm excited to see what you guys discover and find, and like, show these to your husbands and your partners. And if you're one of my rare male clients listening, take this please and show it to the world. And just share it.
It's needed.
It is. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your wisdom, and just like always showing up for us here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, I will drop everything you need to know in the show notes, and message, comment, share. We are so excited to hear what you guys discover.